Yo, what's up? This is Borgore, and I'm hanging out with Rob on Front Row Live.
You're about to do your first ever jazz night, dude. And just on the way here and throughout the week since you dropped your first jazz album, I can't stop listening to it.
Oh my God.
So I'm super excited about this, like some kind of transition you're doing. I know it's only temporary, but still, like it's something awesome.
I don't think it's temporary. I think it's parallel. You know, it's I've always done jazz. It was just indoors.
Yeah.
I wasn't like, I never recorded it or. I grew up doing jazz. When I'm home, I listen to jazz. I don't listen to anything else. I wrote this album a year ago.
Okay.
It's songs that I've been writing for years. It's it's a bunch of songs that I wrote throughout the years. And one day I was like, fuck it, let's just record it.
Yeah.
And honestly, I didn't think it's gonna get the reaction that it got. I'm like so surprised. I'm overwhelmed by the amount of good feedback I got from it.
Right, and it's great because like jazz is not a genre that you think people really understand nowadays or people really like kind of crave nowadays. So, Adventures in Time came out, and like I said, I just can't stop listening to it.
I think that also the approach that I have to jazz is kind of different than what's going on. All the beats are kind of they're groovy. It's a groovy album.
It is.
Also, like, there's pros and cons for my piano skills. I am not the greatest piano player. I am not. I don't. I'm not even competing to be the best piano.
Right.
I'm a pretty average piano player. I'll be honest, but the fact that I'm pretty average, but I still have the knowledge, I think that the melodies are pretty simple. The songs are very complicated, but at the same time very approachable.
Right.
So, because the problem a lot of the time with jazz is these musicians that I admire and I listen to are so complex that like for the average person, it's like it's a little bit of a difficult language to digest, to understand, But I come with a more simple approach, keeping it, but simple to an extent. Again, the songs are complicated, but it's approachable.
Right. Now, going into the studio to record this, like how obviously it was different from your dubstep stuff, but how different was it when you were recording?
It was completely different because when I write a song, I'm like sitting with the synth, I play a couple of things, I fuck up, I'm like, okay, I'll go back to the MIDI, delete this, move this here, put this on time, whatever, change this chord, bam, you got a song.
Right.
When we recorded the album, every time I fucked up, that's it. It's you cannot fix it.
You did this live.
Oh, 100%. What we did is we had one room. Jazz you have to record in a band. You cannot record by sections.
Right.
But the problem is because I'm not the greatest piano player, I had to have the ability to go back and fix things and whatever. And also to have a good mix, we wanted to have a separation. So what we did is we had one room, which we built a room inside a room for the bass player and a room inside a room for the drummer. And I was sitting in the middle and we were all playing together. But when I got the final mixes, I had the piano separate, the drummer separate, the bass separate.
Nothing was bleeding through.
There's a little bit of bleeding, but it's to a point that you can actually like change things.
Yeah.
So I'll be very, very honest that there was a couple of spots that I fucked up that later I went on and re-recorded it.
Right.
It's hard, dude. When you play like a 7-minute song, it's hard to play it with no mistakes. And you know what?
True.
Some mistakes I actually kept in the album. There is some mistakes.
I thought I heard one or two. I wasn't sure if it was just me overthinking it.
There is mistakes, but
that's the best part of it, though.
That's the beauty of playing live,
Right. Now tell me about the titles for these songs. What kind of inspired the titles? I can tell you off the bat, my favorite track on the record was "Winter in Tel Aviv." Okay. But what was the idea behind these titles?
So I was trying to play with giving it traditional jazz names but at the same time, like put some current flavor to it. And actually, every title makes complete sense with the song. For example, Winter in Tel Aviv, I wrote it in a Winter in Tel Aviv. But also, sus is because it's sus chords.
Okay.
It's a certain type of chord, sus. But at the same time, it sounds like sus, like, people say sus. With or Without You, it sounds like a jazz standard.
Yeah.
But it's because like all the songs in jazz, like they have names like this, but we made it kind of, instead of With or Without You, With or Without You. Song for a Midgo is a song that I dedicated to my piano teacher. He died. Remember in peace, Amit Golan. So Song for a Midgo. There's a lot of there's actually in jazz there's a lot of like song for. There's like a lot of titles that go song for. What's the other titles? We have Complicated because it's complicated.
Right.
It's a complicated record. Storm is dedicated to my best friend's dog, Storm.
Okay.
She's the cutest.
Yeah, you got a lot of thinking for all of these.
Yeah, dude, every song makes sense completely, yeah.
Now tonight, like I said, tonight's your first jazz night. So what is that going to be like?
What's going to be like? It's going to be jazzy. But at the same time, I told, like, my approach to everything is I don't like boring jazz. I like groovy, hard-hitting jazz. So I think it's going to be pretty... You know when you come to a Borgore dubstep show, like to a Borgore show, period, it's going to be pretty banging.
Right.
So in the jazz universe, this show is going to be pretty banging. For jazz heads, this is pretty head-banging jazz. Yeah.
I feel like it's going to open more doors and introduce more people to you that haven't already heard of Borgore.
I think that if anything, it introduces more people to jazz. Because, as you said, it's kind of a dying art. I feel like when I grew up, I wanted to be a player. I wanted to be a drummer. I wanted to be a piano. I wanted to play the saxophone. I wanted to play real instruments. That was my dream. I think that kids growing up today, they want to be a DJ. Right. They want to make beats. They don't want to play.
Artists like you kind of started an awesome trend. That's why.
Yeah, thanks, dude. But so I was before that time. I was in the times that we grab an instrument, and I think it's a new concept, dude. It's like an old new concept that you go to a show and people play live instruments. Jesus, it's what's going on. Right
now, speaking of shows, you've been nonstop this year. You have another event tomorrow. You have other like festivals going on this year, and then there's a tour in the works.
Yeah.
With the tour in the works, do you plan on kind of like bringing this jazz concept on tour, or do you just want to keep it each one separately?
I really hope that I can play more jazz shows. I find it where I am right now in life. Yeah. I love to sit in the studio and write music. I love music. DJing is kind of boring to me.
Really?
I'm like.
Is it that you've kind of experienced a lot already, or?
I like the whole like standing there and having everyone look at me, and I'm just playing records that everyone else is playing. Yeah. It's like I've grown tired of it. I like to sit in the studio. I like to write. Like music is my passion, not so much DJing and being the front man and stuff. And what I love about jazz is I just had the best rehearsal ever. But what you're going to hear in like half an hour is going to be completely different. Right. Every time we start the record, it's a different record. Every time it's different.
You never know where it's going to take you then.
100%. And there's always room to improve, like to improve. Like every time I play the same record, I can, because essentially in jazz what you do is you play the record, and then there's a solo section. Right. And the solo section is basically the chords of the song, but every player plays new song over the chords of the song, improvises. Got it. So when you play jazz, you essentially write music, and every time you want to write a better song, and that's the interesting, complex part of jazz, and this is why I love it, because every time it's completely different. Right. I can play Throwing Elbows in 600 versions. You know what I mean?
That makes sense. Now you were also kind of like on Twitter, you were kind of teasing a volume 2 already. Like that's already something that you have in mind. Like this just dropped. I haven't had enough yet. So
I was thinking of volume 2 right after I recorded volume 1, just because I really enjoyed, writing it, and honestly, dude, I wasn't lying when I was tweeting yesterday that I was like almost in tears reading the comments, dude. I never thought that it's gonna get so accepted,
Right.
dude. I was I'm very honored, and I would love to keep making this, but again, like I don't want like my fans to think that I quit or anything. I love writing dubstep.
well, it's good to try new things, though. I mean, you might be able to incorporate it in a set one time or another. I always wanted to play drums live too, so
I sit with all my friends every night, and we play FIFA for 2 hours, and then we write like we all have our laptops, so we start making like yoy 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 yoys, and then they go play FIFA. I go play the piano. Like I like to do everything at the same time. Like I like to write dubstep. I like to play the piano. Doesn't contradict whatsoever.
right.
And I want to do both. And I've always done both. Just that right now I was ready to show it.